Hoop season tips off Monday on both the men's and the women's side. You've got 7 women's games. You can see 5 of them on Big Ten Plus. It includes number 3 Iowa hosting FDU, 14th ranked Maryland as Harvard, Purdue visiting number 4 UCLA, a future Big Ten member. 7th ranked Ohio State gets things going, though. The first regular season game of the season against another future Big Ten member in USC, game that'll be played in Vegas. And that gets us to our big interview, and it is the head coach of the Ohio State women, Kevin McGuff, who joins us. Coach, let's talk about that matchup first, and just this event in Vegas. It's really neat. You've got 4 games, 2 women's games, 2 men's games. You got a lot of high-level games here. What's the difference in preparation when you start a season against a team as talented as USC?
Yeah, it's going to be a real challenge for us. USC is very talented. They've got a great coach. They had one of the best off seasons of any team in the country. They added 3 Ivy League transfers that are all going to be very impactful for them. So we've got a great roster. We know we're going to be in for a challenge. And you're right, it's going to be a great event, so we're happy to be a part of it.
28 wins last year. You made your deepest NCAA tournament run in about 30 years. Put that season into perspective for us, making it to the Elite Eight and having all of the success that you guys did a season ago.
Yeah, it was fun. I just really love this group that we have right now. We've got great players. They're great kids. And so they really enjoyed playing with each other. And it was really a historic run for us and just a lot of fun to be a part of. And, you know, and to get there, to have to beat Connecticut, the best, program in the history of our game and a program I have incredible respect for, just even made it that much more special. But a great run for us, and we're looking to hopefully build off of that heading into this year.
I think one thing that was really amazing to me, Kevin, was how well you guys played last year despite the injuries. I mean, it just seemed like they piled up for you guys, particularly in the backcourt. J.C. Sheldon was such a huge part of your team, and you were without her for most of the year and certainly without her full strength for essentially all of the year. What does it mean to have her back and to have her healthy this year?
Yeah, you're right. It was tough last year. We got off to such a great start. We won our first 19 games, and then we really got hit with the injury bug, and especially at the point guard position. And so we had to move some people around, and some people stepped up to just keep us afloat until we could get some players back. And JC's such a great player. She's such a great leader. She's such a big part of everything we do on both ends of the floor. So it's great to have her back and healthy and playing well right now.
You struggled a little bit on the defensive end last year, I guess relative to offense anyway. You bring in Celeste Taylor, who was the ACC Defensive Player of the Year at Duke. What does her addition mean in terms of improving perhaps a little bit on that end of the court?
Yeah, no, there's 2 areas where I've said all preseason where if we're going to make a jump or take the next step as a program, we're going to have to be better in the half court defensively and with our rebounding. And Celeste has already had a huge impact in both of those areas. She's a great player. She's played in huge games. She's got great experience, and I think she's going to be a key part of our success this year.
Coach, I found it interesting that your team took a trip to Brazil over the summer. You were there for 10 days. You practiced once and played 1 game. So obviously The focus wasn't necessarily on, hey, we're going to get there and we're going to try to get better. The focus was we're going to go there and we're going to try to get closer as a team, and perhaps that makes us better. What's the calculus behind making a decision like that? Because a lot of teams go on a foreign tour and they might play 4 games.
Yep. Yeah, so we got our practices in. We had 10 days of practice, and that's where we kind of put the focus on. This is where we wanted to get better. That's where we wanted to integrate the newcomers in terms of on-the-floor type stuff. But really the biggest point of emphasis was just the chemistry, the camaraderie, the off-the-court time when we got to Brazil. And I look back to last year as I think our biggest key was our chemistry. And so I wanted to make sure that we were very mindful of that in the offseason. We could recreate the same chemistry to give us the best chance to be as successful as we can this year.
Coach, it's interesting. I was reading some articles getting set for this interview today, and I found a quote from when you were the head coach at Xavier that I thought was really interesting. I want to give it to you. It's from 13 years ago. You said, the game's going to continue to get better. As it grows, we need the attendance to back it up. So you think about where this sport was 13 years ago, and now you think about the explosive growth, and Ohio State's a huge part of that. You guys had the biggest jump in attendance in the Big Ten a season ago. What do you think when you compare the game you were looking at 13 years ago, which was a great game, but did not have nearly the interest that it seems to have now. What do you think when you compare those time periods?
Well, I think there's a lot more talent. I mean, this sport is really deep with talent all over the place. So the players are doing a great job in terms of their development. So by the time we get them in college, they're much further along than they used to be. I think the coaching has gotten better. And you take the talent and the coaching, our game has just gotten better, and it's a great game to watch. And I think last year was awesome because attendance was up everywhere. The TV ratings were up. And so we had an incredible year last year, and I think it's going to be just as good this year.
You talk about talent all over the place. You have talent all over your house. You've got 2 daughters who are playing major college basketball. You've got one at Belmont, one at Bowling Green. How tough is that, like, as a parent, one who obviously had a huge role, although I know your wife is a great player and a coach as well, but obviously you had a role in turning them into the players that they are. Is it tough that you don't get to see them a ton in person?
It is tough. I wish I could get to see them in person a little bit more. I'll have more of a chance with my daughter Kieran at Bowling Green because they're just closer. Nashville is just a little harder to get to during the season. But I did do one smart thing. I scheduled Belmont this year, and they're going to play at the Shot here in Columbus on December 22nd. So that should be a really fun thing for our family. I
saw that. That was going to be my next question. What's the balancing act when you're a dad versus when you're a coach of kind of like how much I'm sure you watch tape of their games. Like, how much do you give suggestions, and how much do you just say, "Hey, that's out of my hands now"?
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act. I think it's easier though. Once they get to college, it's a little bit easier because, they know I have a lot of experience here. My wife has a lot of experience having been a college coach and played in college. It's a little harder in high school, I think. They don't want to hear it quite as much, but as they've gotten to college, they've been much more receptive to my advice and my wife's advice.
So that Belmont game's an interesting one. The other one I found interesting is November 12th, you're playing IUPUI. And the reason I find that interesting is because it's going to be going on simultaneous to a Bengals game. So I'm just curious, like, I know you're a huge Bengals fan. Will you be able to focus on the issue at hand, or will there be a part of you that's wondering how the Bengals are doing?
I'm going to be, my full attention will be on our team and IUPUI, but I will DVR the game and make sure no one tells me the score, and I'll get home and I'll watch it.
Do you have CJ Stroud's number? Like, can you trash talk him because they're playing Jacksonville? Can you trash talk him if the Bengals win the game?
Yeah, I don't have his number, so that might be tough for me, but I'll try to get it between now and then.
Playing Houston, I mean, obviously. Okay, Houston, yeah, something to work on there. Hey, give us a sense for USC, a tremendous recruiting class. They went heavy in the portal. You mentioned that, but they also have the best freshmen in the country. So give us a sense for what you're up against on Monday against USC.
Yeah, really, really talented. And I think they've got a nice mixture of athleticism and skill, but the 3 Ivy League kids that they added are really talented. I think they're a great fit. Juju Watkins is really special, and they've got a really talented 5-player in Ray Marshall. So they've got a great lineup. They're a really good team. Lindsay does a great job, and we know this is going to be a huge challenge for us. Yeah,
I have heard Juju referred to as a generational player. Like, give us a sense of what makes her so good.
She's long and rangy and athletic, and she's got a great skill set. She plays really hard for a young player, and just a really tough matchup. She can score at the rim. She can score from the 3-point line. So she's really got all the tools to be just a spectacular player.
It's interesting to me. You obviously know the Pac-12 well. You were the head coach at Washington before you got the Ohio State job. What will the addition of these teams mean? You look at the women's programs at all 4 of these schools, and they historically have been really good. What does it mean to bring in these 4 programs in terms of strengthening what's already a tremendous league?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have the strongest, deepest conference in women's basketball, and it's only going to get tougher. I mean, because all 4 of those programs are excellent. They've had recent success. They recruit well. They've got great coaches. So it's going to just make what's already just a gauntlet of a Big Ten schedule even tougher.
Well, we are certainly looking forward to it. I know it's going to be a challenge for all the coaches. We're going to have Lindsay Gottlieb coming on later in the week as well to get the USC perspective on this one. But should be a fabulous event and a great game on Monday in Vegas. Coach, really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot for taking the
Thanks for
time out
having
to
me
join
on.
us. Yeah, our
Thank you.
pleasure.